Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Rachel Francis. I'm the Director of Sales over here at Coast. We are here today with WorkWave, and two operators are actually running pest control and lawn management businesses day to day. We're going to be talking about something that affects every single one of you, which is where your money is going, right? Whether you see it in real time, whether you're trying to deal with reconciling that and auditing that after the fact, and what actually changes when you have real-time visibility into your expenses. We're going to leave some time at the end for Q&A, so drop your questions into the chat as we go. But yeah, we'll jump right into it. To run quick intros, like I said, my name is Rachel. I'm the Director of Sales over here at Coast. Work with field services businesses daily. Before I was at Coast, I was over at a company called Podium, so have a very long history of working with operators like yourselves who are dealing with very similar headaches. We have Josh Brill, who's the Director of FinTech Growth over at WorkWave. WorkWave is the parent company of PestPack and Railgreen. We also have Brian Rail. He's a GM at Agronomic Lawn Management, who is using Railgreen since 2008 and is a more recent since 2008 Coast customer. And will most likely be joined as well by Daphne Berthoff. She's a CEO at Bugbusters and CFO. I apologize. She's been with them for 21 years. Long PestPack user and Coast customer as well. To give you guys a little bit of a background on Coast, Coast is a fuel card and corporate card built specifically for businesses like yours. We provide real-time visibility and controls, GPS-linked transactions, a super user-friendly mobile app, instant card provisioning for new hires, right? Our whole goal with Coast is to give you the control and visibility that you should expect from your fuel card while applying that to any other expenses that you need with your business overall. Customers of Coast typically see about 10% savings on spend and hours every single month saved in, kind of month-end reconciliation. I'll pass it over to Josh for a quick overview of WorkWave.
Yeah. So again, really great to be here. WorkWave is the parent company of both Railgreen and PestPack. So I know many of you guys were at the WorkWave service conference earlier this year, and even in prior years. One of the big things that we're trying to do at WorkWave is we want to be your solution for as many things as possible, whether that's true back office work, routing, sales processes, really anything that you're doing to run your business aside from the labor itself. We want that to come through your WorkWave platform. We want to make that as easy as possible. And that's really how we got into this partnership with Coast. Something we were hearing over and over again was the current fleet products just weren't working for our customer base. There were a lot of reasons for that. There were a couple of names that we kept hearing over and over again. And there were also customers saying the barrier for entry was just too high. So we're not using anything specific for that space. So incredibly rewarding to see how well this partnership has gone so far. I can tell you, I got a lot of really great firsthand feedback from a bunch of customers of ours at the conference and at some other on-sites that I've done with our clients. So again, great to see everything that's happened during the kind of first year of this partnership, and looking forward even more to seeing how this thing grows, particularly as Coast itself is growing and continuously building new features.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. Let's kick it over to some questions. Let's talk about spend management. First question I have is over to Brian. Would love to understand, before you had better visibility into your fuel and your operations, what felt unclear to you or frustrating about your margins and your spend?
Yeah, it was pretty tough to know exactly, where trucks are going day to day. Even with, truck tracking, it still is understanding when fuel's going into trucks, if it's going into trucks, and there was no live time reporting on that whatsoever. So we, basically everything we were looking at was in the past. And so we were always, when you see something that looks a little funny, you're just like trying to figure out what's going on. And what we got in the past wasn't even really data we could use. It was a PDF, and if you wanted to do anything with that, then that's on you to get it into, Excel or some kind of spreadsheet where you can actually, manipulate and use the data. So, everything was in the rearview mirror, and it just wasn't easy to use. So, there wasn't a whole lot of clarity there.
Sure, no, it makes a ton of sense. We hear that all the time. Did you feel like you had an inkling of where you thought cash might be leaking, but it was hard to prove? Like, are there any, examples of that?
Yeah, while each guy has their own gas card, you know, sometimes guys would, oh, I forgot my wallet at home. Can I borrow your gas card today? And now, I get the invoice 2 weeks later, and I'm going, why is there, back-to-back days of 30 gallons going on this card? And I call the person that has the card. Oh, I think I gave it to Scott, and it's like, okay, now I got to track down Scott and figure out what happened with him, and which it also just that report theoretically tells you what their miles per gallon were based on their odometer entry, and now that's all messed up too. So it just it just makes everything a mess, and it's like, okay, what was now it's showing basically 0 miles per gallon on that truck because it just bought fuel 2 days in a row. So and then the flip side is Scott's truck is not oh, he hasn't bought fuel in forever. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We hear that all the time, right? Like the whole reason you buy a fuel card is for insights, like you just mentioned,
Right.
and if card swapping is happening, or the data just becomes like essentially unusable, right? So
Yep.
why even have one? Um, you've been using Real Green for a long time, like 2008, I believe,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Cool. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how has that improved your visibility into your jobs, the routing, and the crew performance overall? Like, what's the most value there?
So we are huge on, getting the same technicians back to the same lawns as frequently as possible, and really at all costs. In 2008, when we started with Real Green, there were, two and a half technicians doing the work. Now we're bumping up against 70 technicians. So when it's only a couple technicians, it's pretty easy, right? When you start to get into the numbers, anything over 10, it's like, okay, now it's really hard to just off the top of your head keep guys going back to the same spots. So Real Green makes that really, really easy and very, very executable. Granted, it is definitely some work on the back end to make sure what the customers gets is what they want, and that's a big process that happens. Basically the last half of November we start working on that. It's like, okay, whose routes are too big? Where were our huge growth areas that we need to trim down? Slide that over to somebody else. Who are the new guys that I've been training all year that are going to get to slide? They're going to get their own route finally and get to slide in. But once you do that hard work at the end of the year, the systems are in place and the processes are in place that, unless someone's sick or out on vacation, they're getting the same guy, really every single time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I mean that's huge. That's critical to be able to pull that off, right?
yep.
Fuel is of course a major line item for everyone, right? It's not the thing that anyone loves to think about, but it's one of the large expenses. What did fuel spend and visibility look like before you shifted to Coast? Because you've been with Coast more recently since than 2008, obviously.
Yeah. It was, the visibility, kind of like I mentioned before, it's really night and day. Now you can see what's happening today. If something isn't going through, we get notified right away, to whereas before, if someone's card wasn't working, it was like, oh, call the number on the back. I don't know what to tell you, man. And so they're on support call with, our previous, system, and they're like, I don't know why it's not working. And it's an absolute mess to where, Coast, I know exactly what gas station they're at. I know what's going on. I can, help them navigate that a lot more quickly. And then when I do get that information, as far as what our cost is, I push it right into an Excel sheet, no problem, can manipulate data and really find out, okay, who's using, is anything abnormal as far as how much fuel they're using. And when you have it all in Excel, you can compare. We haven't been with you guys long enough to get to this point, but at some point we'll be able to go, okay, what did March of 2027 look like compared to March of 2026?
Yeah.
And really be able to kind of understand where it's all going.
Yeah, I mean, maybe March of 2027 won't hopefully maybe gas prices won't be what they're
Yeah,
going to be in March
theoretically.
2026. But hey, I mean,
Yeah.
of all the
Yep.
times of year to be with Coast and save money on fuel with the world right now, this is
Yeah.
maybe a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
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 Theoretically, global affairs are a little bit more settled in 2027, and we're spending a little less.
Yeah, we will see. In the meantime, Coast can help you, right?
Yeah.
We'll try to help
Yeah.
you spend as little as possible. Um, Awesome. Well, something specific to landscaping that we hear all the time before Coast is just how cumbersome it is to separate out like vehicle from equipment fuel, right? Like on-road and
Yeah.
off-road fuel. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit? Just what that experience was like before and then after using Coast?
Sure. So before Coast, we had a system in place, but it was very kind of cumbersome. So I'll just tell you, it was, all of our drivers have to enter their odometer number, at the point of purchase on the old system. And if it was going in equipment, we said just enter a 1. So, I get the report 2 weeks later, and I'm sitting there sorting out the ones from the, actual odometer readings to split it all up so I can make my entry, into the bookkeeping on what was equipment fuel, what was vehicle fuel. And again, it worked, sure, but it was very time consuming. I was counting on, proper, user entry, which definitely wasn't always the case. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Some guys would, you'd see on the same day, oh, there goes 30 gallons in a truck, and there goes a gallon and a half, 5 minutes later, and I'm like, what happened? So I got to call this guy and go, hey, where did the gallon and a half go? Oh, I put it in my tank. I put it in my piece of, my spray tank. It's like, okay. Then I got to tell them, make sure you use the number 1 next time. And, and honestly, that would happen every 2 weeks. It was somebody, because like I said, we're at the point where we're kind of constantly hiring. If we're not hiring people, our head count's probably going the wrong direction. And so, it's always, no matter how many times you tell somebody, it seems like always the first time they do it wrong, and, getting it fixed.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Do you feel like, I mean, outside of any like accidents and human error, did switching to Coast uncover any like misuse or fraud or like off hours transactions that you didn't expect?
I haven't seen any at this point, but in the past, you interview people, you do the best you can to, hey, does this person have, they have work ethic, do they have character, are they going to be somebody that's going to fit with us? But at the end of the day, you really don't know. And, I think everybody, has that 1 or 2 employees where it's like, I'm just not sure about that person. You're kind of keeping your eye on them. But with the old card, there was really no way to tell. But, with Coast's integration to our telematics, now the card doesn't work if the truck isn't where the phone is, basically. So, the phone, they log in, they say, all right, I'm here, I'm ready to buy something. And if it doesn't match up with the truck tracking, the card doesn't work. So, if they're in their personal car or whatever, then for sure that it's, not going to go through, and you can sleep easy at night.
Yeah. We hear that all the time, right? Just that you can finally, no one wants to think about their fuel card, and with Coast, you actually don't have to. Like, you just know that it's doing its thing. You mentioned hiring being very much top of mind for you, right? Like, business is growing. If you're not hiring, you're going backwards. Talk to me, like, we talk often about just, or what we hear from customers a lot is just like the ease of getting cards out to new employees, right? Like, that's often something that is a headache until Coast. Can you maybe dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, currently, or I should say, on the old system, it's, okay, I got to call them, say, hey, I got this new employee, here's their name, please mail us a card. Card comes in the mail a week, 10 days later, if at all, and I don't know that that's the provider's, the gas provider's problem as much as it's the post office's problem. But, that's, we just, so there again, it's like, okay, use this loaner card, and now again, I'm giving somebody like my gas card or somebody else's gas card to get gas for the day, and trying to keep track of, where'd that fuel actually go? Whereas now it's, Coast, gives you a stack of cards and you assign them. Really easy, just log into their online portal, assign it to the technician, and move on with your life, and it's done. And I think I still have 10 cards in my desk, and when it gets lower, I'll ask for more. And by the same token, when someone moves on from your company, you just get the card back, and you can reassign it. You don't have to, it's not this useless piece of plastic. You're just dropping in the shredder. So, being able to onboard people more quickly and not. I mean, to me, it's twofold. It's obviously you want to know expenses and gas and where it's all going, but also it's just not a good look to new employees to go, oh yeah, we're not really ready for you to be in the field yet. Here's, my card or somebody else's card. When you have that kind of seamless entry into the workforce, like, oh, this place is on their stuff. This is a company I want to work for. They have it figured out. So it's, it's a good impression to newer employees too.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. Daphne, great to see you.
Hi, guys. When in doubt, reboot.
When in doubt, reboot. And hey, it's what we all have to do sometimes.
Sorry, team.
You're just fine. No, excited to have you. We'll learn a ton from your insight. We'd love to get a question to you, if just right out of the gate. I mean, Bugbusters has been at PestPack since 2005, so you guys are a longtime customer of PestPack, obviously a bit newer of a customer to Coast. In your role as a CFO, what operational visibility matters most to you?
I mean, knowing where our drivers are, their scheduling is important, where we can save money, right? With a gas card, you can't really necessarily make money, but you can save money for the company. And so looking at those cost of goods sold items is very important as a CFO to make sure that we are getting the best product for the best price. And it gives us great control, it gives us trust in our drivers, and it helps with scheduling.
Yeah, no, I love that. That makes a ton of sense. You, I believe, do a decent amount of out-of-town travel, or your PMPs do. Walk us through what that looked like before. I know that you guys are using Coast for more than just fuel, right? They're using it for some of those other expenses. Can you walk us through what that looks like before and then what changed as you switched over to Coast?
Yeah, I think this was huge for us because we were doing like an old-fashioned, archaic, like Excel schedule to the accounts payable person. Hey, so and so, John Smith is going to be traveling to do maybe out of town bed bug job, and they need per diem. So that means we got to get them money, or they're going to have to turn in receipts afterwards and get reimbursed. And that slow time of payment process, and just like how many days are they gone, how much money do they need, what are they going to need hotel wise, this gives them the ability to book their own hotel, know what they've got in advance for their per diem per day. So it's really easy. You can load that information. You set up policies in Coast for how much it is per person, either per day, per month, what have you. And you can add all those frequencies in there so that when your PMP uses their same pest management professional, for those out there, we call them PMPs, when they have their Coast gas card in their visor, they can use it to obviously get gas, but you can turn on a policy for that card, which allows them to book their hotel and get their per diem. And then they just take a simple copy of the receipt after the purchase is made, and you can put limits on there as well. Obviously they, not $500 to go to the, five-star restaurant, but limits for money per night for per diem. And it's so simple, and we can see those credit card or card transactions. We can approve them, and we can also see the receipts, which makes it really helpful. Is that what you're looking for, Rachel?
Yeah. I mean, that's great. We're looking for your story, so that's perfect. Love to maybe ask you first, and then I'll flip the same question to Brian. For folks listening today, obviously we're talking a lot about visibility on spend, fuel spend, other areas of spend. What is the first area you would tell other operators on the call to tighten immediately? Daphne, we'll hit that to you first.
Well, the easiest part is you're able to have those cards and have employees moving from vehicle to vehicle without worrying about where's the card, where's the gas card, right? So they can use that app, and that's easy. The other easy part is that we're able to see real time what our spend is, what's going on. Are the vehicles at the fuel at the pump itself. Is there any misuse of gas? Is somebody putting it in their personal vehicle? So like our company vehicle has to be in that vicinity, right? And you can also put limits of like, if you don't want to be in Atlanta near a hospital, there's a really expensive gas station. So we've blocked that gas station because we're like, ooh, that one's expensive. And so it's not going to work at that location. And we're able to see, even at the end of the month, we're able to see who was the highest user of gas or who, and it breaks down easy to read. It's not clunky. The visuals are good. The graphs are good. The images are good. You're not scouring through 15 pages of transactions. Coast does that for us, which is lovely. It makes that recap at the end of the month so easy.
Yeah, perfect. Brian, same question over to you. What's the first area you'd tell everyone to kind of tighten up in terms of visibility?
I would kind of circle back to your route assignments and trying to keep those, your techs going to the same, neighborhoods, the same spots as much as possible. It's not just about a tight route and, having those stops in close proximity to each other, but, you send the same person back to the same area, they're going to have a better understanding of it. They're not getting lost. They're not, using a GPS. They're going to be quicker and more productive because they know these neighborhoods in and out. And two, they know, exactly where to go and they're not making wrong turns. And then also at the end of the day, you're going to end up with happier customers too, when they're seeing the same guy over and over again, developing that relationship. We tell our guys all the time, it's like, hey, if we're not a retail store, but if we were, you guys would be our storefront. You guys are the ones that the customers see and interact with. And so, that comes down to, how you look, how clean the truck is, how you speak with the customer. And so developing that relationship is huge.
Yeah, perfect. Makes a ton of sense. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate both of your knowledge and expertise. Let's open it up for questions. We have a few already in the chat, so I will open that up first. Yeah, I think first question that we're seeing here, do you ever share what you guys are seeing in the Coast admin portal with your drivers and use that to influence driver behavior in any way, or is it just truly for like you on the back end?
I'm happy to answer that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Sorry, I can get that.
I have, we do share it with our managers, our branch managers, so that they have an idea of, who their heavy foot drivers might be. Obviously we're constantly looking at the maintenance and making sure that the maintenance and the safety of the vehicles are really important to us because it's important to make sure our P&Ps get home safely, right? So we are looking at, fuel efficiency, but also, hey, this driver looks like, does this make sense? Well, yes, they're pulling a bed bug truck and it's, 6,000 pounds of generators and fans in there. And it makes sense that this F-350 is our highest user. And we know that our bed bug truck is going further distances. They might be covering it from Atlanta to Alabama. So, I would look at some of that. And that's also shared with our branch managers. We haven't shared, I think, a lot of detail with our employees, but I know at the year end, we got like a cool summary from Coast that listed here's your, all these little safety recaps for them and usage. And so we did share some of that annual information with the branch managers who then shared it in their weekly meetings with their P&Ps. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, cool. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Question coming in. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we haven't shared it with our drivers per se. We do share our telematics info. But one point where Coast did come into play was, the telematics was telling us that this guy was driving, really awful, hard braking, hard acceleration, hard cornering, all that stuff. And he was swearing up and down he wasn't doing it. And we look at the miles per gallon and that, his story kind of checked out. It turns out the little module in his dash was loose and it was just swinging back and forth in the dash. So it was registering all these really insane, aggressive driving events that weren't happening. And sure enough, we fix it and it all disappears. So, the information Coast had did help us kind of get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. We often hear, yeah, like Coast can uncover bad behavior of drivers, but this is a nice example
Yeah.
of it saving them and
Yep.
the other way around. That's great. Um, how do you, maybe Brian first, how do you train your techs to use the cards?
So it was very, very easy. They have company phones. We just, put the app on their company phones. And I mean, I think it was like 3 or 4 slides that we sent out into our, company chat and said, hey, this is how it works. We did, this is kind of our normal policy. We have what are called lead route managers. They run a route, but they're also kind of responsible for 5 or 6 guys that also run routes. And so they're kind of their, first line manager, team lead. But anytime we implement something new, we push it into those guys' hands, our lead route managers first, to just kind of test it. Hey, yeah, is there any kinks that need to be worked out of it? So we pushed it to them, and within 3 days, 4 days, we had to wait for everybody to have an opportunity to buy fuel. So within 3 or 4 days, everybody was like, no, went fine, no problems. And so, where normally then we'd still slowly trickle it out just to avoid a bombardment of questions on how to use something. It was easy enough, and we felt it was intuitive enough that we just dropped them in everybody's hands, and that was that. So,
Yeah, Daphne, is it similar for you, or do you train differently?
Very similar. When we rolled it out a couple years ago, we started with one branch and tested it for like 4 or 5 days, and we're like, oh, this is easy. Like this was a simple rollout. So instead of doing branch by branch or location by location, we just started that first test branch and then just rolled it out to everybody. Basically, we showed them a few slides, just like Brian said, and then gave them here's the app that you're going to download, and then basically just said, hey, when you make that first purchase, you're going to need to, record the car tag and your cell phone number in there. And it's been easy. It's been even easier for, like, say, our service managers who might get into multiple different cars for different reasons, for them to load those and toggle as needed to those vehicles on the app, saying, I'm driving now vehicle 151, and maybe he might need a drop into a sales car or something, one vehicle 182. And it's been easy to toggle back and forth with that.
Yeah. Maybe backing up one question, Daphne, how many cards do you have out in the field? Because you guys have a ton of locations. How many Coast cards are out there in
We
hands?
have probably about 49 vehicles. I mean, some give or take, but we spread over the southeast Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. So we do have that, but it's easy to get the cards in. It's not like you're having to wait and say, hey, so and so past provider, I need a card, and then they'd send it to the corporate office, and then you'd have to get it out to
Yeah.
to the branch, because they wouldn't want to send cards to our physical location. It would had to be to the main PO box billing, and that delayed things, because then we're going to have to spend time. So getting the cards and having them and getting them out to the our PMPs has been a simple process.
Cool. Perfect. This question is coming in from Nathan Colby. We'll start with you, Daphne, and then jump to Brian if you want to answer as well. What are the pros and cons to assigning cards to a driver and having them take them home versus having the cards left in the service vehicle unassigned to the tech and requiring them to sign in before use?
We do keep the cards in the car. I still
Okay.
do that. And that way, when somebody needs to hop in like a smaller truck or car to a larger, like F-350 or something, there is still a card. We actually do visor, little black visor pockets, and so we have the card. The Coast card goes in there. Our accident envelope from our insurance goes in there. The registration goes in there. And so we like to keep all that information in that visor. And that's helped us stay organized as a company. So we have our accident envelope, the registration, and the Coast gas card, and a copy of our fleet insurance. Those four
Okay.
things go in the visor. And
Yeah.
so we leave them in the car still.
Okay. You still leave them in the car. Brian, is that similar for you, or do you do something different?
honestly, we didn't really give the guys guidance on that. I assume some of them probably leave them in the center console, and some of them keep them in their wallet. Um, so But in regards to having them assigned to a tech or sign in before each use, ours are set up that they sign in before each use, and
Okay.
they pick their truck. They have to actually enter the truck number the first time and enter the card number the first time, but then the next time through, all they have to do is hit the category and it auto populates. Hey, here's your card, here's your truck, and you're just confirming you're still in the same truck. So it's pretty easy, and
Yeah.
haven't lost any cards yet. The only time we actually even lost cards, even with the old system, was people leaving their whole wallet in the truck and not in the best part of town, and the whole wallet disappears. And it's like,
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Rachel, let me comment on
Yeah,
this.
go
This
ahead.
might help for the pest control and any landscaping teams out there, is that we have created rigs in our setup, and then we have the vehicle. So, a vehicle might have a permanent rig in there, which requires gas, right? And so we can easily toggle on the app between, say, vehicle 182 versus 182 rig. And that gives you better reporting of, okay, you're able to then identify, hey, is it a rig or, a pump that has a small little engine versus the actual vehicle. And so you can get better gas information from that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's, and maybe just to jump in from the Coast perspective, like, um, yeah, Nathan, there are a variety of ways to do it. I think if we had, two additional Coast customers on this call, like they would maybe set things up differently, but that's our whole goal, right? Is we want it to be flexible and best for the way you want to run your business. We of course have certain best practices that we would suggest you set up with, but yeah, whether you want to leave it in the vehicle, whether you want to sign in before each and every use, whether you want to sign in, the frequency of sign-ins can be customizable. Yeah, the whole goal is that this just actually works for you in the way you want it to work versus forcing you into a typically kind of archaic way of doing things, right? Um, Daphne, you touched on this first, so I want to maybe double click into this. Is there, yeah, a specific way you've gotten your PMPs to stop going to the more expensive gas stations? Can you maybe click on how exactly you've done that? Is it truly just through policies? Did you do any education otherwise? What did that look like?
Um, I think the biggest thing is we did see this one expensive station, and I kind of was able to see based on our routes, because we do have the same PMPs going back to the same customers, just like Brian. That's great customer service and it works with our culture. So I just kind of notified, hey, this gas card is not going to work at that pump. So because I knew the PMP that was in that area, and
Okay.
it's in an area of Atlanta called Buckhead, and it just had a really expensive station near the hospital, and I'm like, we're not going there anymore. I will say though, Rachel, I've had some of our PMPs go, well, this gas card's not working for me, and I go, are you sure? Like it should work, and I literally have been able to log on and see that what the issue was. Maybe if it was pending or whatever it was, I was able to see like how many times they had tried it, and I'm like, have you gone in? And, we kind of got stumped, and I don't really remember the problem, but I said, you know what? Call the number on the back of the card because they have more knowledge. And immediately somebody was able to help them and say, oh, you've tried something too many times and it locked the card or whatever it was. But it was fast. Like they were able to get on their day and get moving. And the 1-800 on the back of the card was so helpful because I could see the transactions as well, but I didn't have like the magic
No.
unlock ability.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was one time over 2 years that we had something where the PMP is like, it's not working. And I'm like, it should be working. I mean, it works everywhere. So that was easy. Like with previous programs, you had to like look for the sticker on the pump to make sure it would work. We've not, it's worked everywhere. I've not, except for that one station I've
Visa,
locked.
right? Like being a Visa card, there aren't
It
very
works
many
everywhere.
spots that don't accept Visa.
Because
Yeah.
you may be in a really
Daphne,
small town of Alabama that doesn't take a certain gas card, but that's not been a problem for us.
Yeah.
Are you looking for overly expensive gas stations in every state that you're working in? Or is it just the ones that you know and can flag early in advance? Like, is there a way that you're kind of filtering for those?
I haven't to that extent, Josh. I probably need to. That's probably my next step is to probably get in there. Now that we've been on it for a while, I feel like I've kind of figured out a lot of the policies, the travel policies. We've got all our branch information so that, end of the month, the coding we code expenses to certain branches, and so that's been really easy. So I've got, policies set up for every location so that the billing is already set up for me. So when I get the invoice, I don't have to go and go, oh, John Smith goes to company one, Tom Smith goes to company two. So that part's been easy. I think the next step is to kind of like, okay, are there certain locations that aren't conducive for us? We do usually advise our PMPs to go to Racetrack or Quick Trip because historically we see those are the best prices. But I do know that we get some discounts to certain pumps and companies as well. And when we're using and seeing that app, those prices we're seeing is after our rebate piece, which is nice. So we don't have to go, oh, well, Racetrack is $3.29, but Exxon's whatever, and then I got to calculate rebate. It's already there for me. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah, the Fuel Finder makes that super easy. Yeah, Brian, are you doing any of this at all, like kind of rerouting or blacklisting expensive stations?
We haven't yet, and I know we have a few that are, historically more expensive than others. Our guys are such creatures of habit. I gotta, kind of figure out how to broach that subject. It's like, hey, they got the same hot dogs at this gas station. Just
That's
go
right.
across the street.
We like the
'Cause,
slushy over here versus there.
yeah, they have their routines. They,
Right?
and so I gotta kind of
Break
gotta be
their hearts
thoughtful about how to
sometimes.
get that one through.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, yeah, amazing. If there's no additional questions, we can close this out. Thank you so much to everyone who joined. This has been such a great conversation. It's really, really fun for me personally to chat with users of Coast and get to know y'all a bit better. If you're interested in WorkWave, drop PestPack or Real Green into the chat. We will find an account manager to be in touch with you. Likewise for Coast, drop Coast into the chat. We're happy to chat through all of the details. Appreciate you joining and have an amazing rest of the day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.